Cool. We're going to talk about contracts today, right?
Yes, we are.
We got two things we're going to cover, mostly paragraphs 11 and 12.
Right.
If you haven't noticed, people, we are breaking down the contract paragraph by paragraph with the purpose of making it explainable. So you don't have to go through the drama of trying to read everything to them. This is what this means. Oh, okay. They trust you, they like you, they know you. You're good, right? And then Joe's done a lot of work to make sure the condo disclosures, those of you who sell condos, they're a pain in the ass. They really are.
Amen, brother.
But you got to do them right. So we're going to go through that today too. So
Yes. Yes.
without further ado, let's just jump in because it is February 27th, the last day before the end of the short month, which means March is right around the corner. And March is like my favorite time of year because it's springtime.
Great. Business is picking up. I'm
Oh,
seeing contracts coming in on properties that have been on less than a week.
yep.
So
No doubt
it's
about
good.
that. It's
Yep.
happening everywhere we go. Let's jump into, I don't understand. There it is. Okay. All right. You see my screen?
I see your screen, but
Let's make it a little
there you
bigger.
go. There it is.
Let's jump down to paragraph 11 and 12 because we finished last week we did all of the disclosures.
Yeah, that's a
So
lot.
what's important about that is when the seller or the buyer signs the contract, they're recognizing or acknowledging that they've had these disclosures made. So they can't come back and say, well, I didn't know that. Well, you signed the freaking contract. You initialed the bottom of the page right here. How could you say
Hmm.
you didn't know it? So it is important that we go through those.
A lot of
Um,
them, especially the one that says there's no violations on this property.
right.
Yeah.
All the permits have been made.
Uh-huh.
Liar, which is why we have a property disclosure statement. All right, so
Mhm.
paragraph 11 is really pretty simple, right?
Yes.
But
Hmm.
it's real. We have a situation going on right now where the seller has video cameras around the property,
Hmm.
and the home inspection came through and said the pool pump that makes the waterfall happen is
Hmm.
broken. And
Okay.
the seller has video of the inspector on camera walking by with the waterfall working.
That's good.
So, you know what? Now, it's important to know that most home inspectors limit their liability to the amount of
Their inspection
their
cost.
inspection fee.
Yeah,
So there's not really a whole lot of things you can do because a pump now is probably a two-stage pump is probably $1,200 now,
at least.
maybe
Yeah.
more. So property maintenance, except for ordinary wear and tear and casualty loss, seller shall maintain the property, including but not limited to lawn, shrubbery, and pool in the condition existing as of the effective date.
Right.
That's called the as-is maintenance requirement. See paragraph 9A for escrow procedures if applicable. So
Hmm.
it shouldn't have to be said, but once you take your house goes under contract, you still have to maintain it.
Right.
You have to mow the grass. You have to clean the pool. You can't just say, "Oh, well, screw it."
Right.
Right? So the seller
So
has that
the
obligation.
so the big thing I'll tell you how I kind of handle it. Oh, excuse me. Um, is I send them a congratulations letter with all the critical dates, and I say, and by the way, your responsibility continues with this. Okay, you know, you have to maintain the pool and stuff because I've had buyers where we buy the house pool looks great, we get there on closing day and it's green. They think
Yep.
they can stop doing it, so rather than cause yourself a lot of problems on closing day, put this in your little congratulations letter to them, like you need to continue maintaining the property.
Yep. And once again, it shouldn't have to be said, but it should be said.
Mm,
Right?
yep.
All
Especially
right.
when you have, like, I had clients who weren't in town and they were paying people to mow the lawn and all that stuff, and I had to remind them you got to keep doing that. So
Okay, this one is my favorite because we have totally destroyed the intent of an as-is contract. Joe, you've been around long enough to know
you know
as-is contracts traditionally were bad deals. It was a
they were for
foreclosure.
distress they were for distressed properties.
Yeah, distressed properties were sold as is. And then
Hmm.
somewhere along the line, agents decided, well, it's easier It's more convenient for the seller to do this. But we're going to read this clause.
Yeah.
And when the offer is made as is, it means as is. So, Joe, if you give
Hmm.
me an offer for my house for $1 million as
Hmm.
is,
Right.
and I accept that, I don't expect to make any repairs because you're buying it as is.
No,
So,
you've already negotiated repairs because you
right,
accepted my offer.
exactly. But buyers don't understand that. We're going through a big one now. It's a multi-million-dollar purchase, that same
Hmm.
pool house I'm telling you about.
Hmm.
And it's clear the seller has not maintained this property. The gas lanterns out front don't work. The pool pumps don't work. The light switches don't work. The electric panel's miswired. There's just double taps, triple taps, all this stuff. But it's an as-is contract. And the buyer's
Hmm.
saying, well, seller, you need to fix this. You have
Hmm.
no leverage to say that. Now, it
Hmm.
happens in practice where sellers do things like this,
Hmm.
but there's no leverage to force them to do it.
No.
And you're going to do a class coming up on the difference between the as-is and the regular contract.
Yes.
And I understand why you guys do it, but just understand that there are no rights. And I think if you start off with the intention of talking to the consumer and say, look, we're making an as-is offer. You have no rights to do anything. You can walk away. That's your only right.
Right.
Right. Everything else is a negotiation, which I'm fine with because I love negotiating. Right.
That's our job. Yeah.
It's a fun part of what we do. So, why don't we read paragraph A? Why don't you do that one?
Okay. Here we go. I made my screen a little bit. There we go. I got it. Um, Property inspections and right to cancel. Buyer shall have blank, if left blank, then 15 days after the effective date inspection period within which to have such inspections of the property performed as the buyer shall desire during the inspection period. If buyer determines in buyer's sole discretion that the property is not acceptable to the buyer, buyer may terminate this contract by delivering written notice of such election to the seller prior to the expiration of the inspection period. If buyer timely terminates this contract, the deposit paid shall be returned to the buyer. Thereupon, buyer and seller shall be released from all further obligations under this contract. However, buyer shall be responsible for prompt payment for such inspection for repair damage to and restoration of the property resulting from such inspection and shall provide seller with paid receipts for all work done on the property. The preceding provisions shall survive termination of this contract. Unless buyer exercises the right to terminate granted herein, buyer accepts the physical condition of the property and any violation of governmental, building, environmental, and safety codes, restrictions, or requirements, but subject to seller's continuing as is maintenance requirement, and buyer shall be responsible for any and all repairs and improvements required by buyer's lender.
That is such a mouthful. We have to read it, not read it. We have to go through the points that it says again,
Yes,
because
yes,
that is so powerful. It strips any right of a buyer away.
yeah.
It's a dangerous contract, right?
It,
So
there's really no protection to the buyer in this paragraph.
none,
No, none.
no rights. You either cancel during the inspection period or you have no rights,
Right,
period.
right.
And now you can ask for repairs, but they're all subject to, and I'll tell you what, come at me with an as is contract. I negotiated that contract as is at that price. I'll make
Mm-hmm.
any repairs you want, but it's going to be added to the price.
Right.
Call me a prick if you want to, but that's the way it's going to happen, right?
I
So
wouldn't doubt it.
let's go through this. Buyer shall
Yep.
have blank days. What is a decent amount of time to allow for inspections?
10, 7 to 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It honestly depends,
Yeah.
right? So let's say, and we went back into last week's class when we talked about all these disclosures that were made. What if
Hmm.
you want to test for radon?
I I better put 15.
Yeah, I mean,
And
radon
the
test.
same and the same thing if I have a well and septic inspection I got to do.
Yep. So for the buyer, the longer the time, the better. For the seller, the shorter the time, the better.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you get into the contract mentality, that's why I don't really care what the initial earnest money deposit is,
Mm-hmm.
because this is a get out of jail free card. I can cancel anytime I want for any reason.
Right.
I
Right.
don't like the way the moon shines on the fence. Cancel. It
The
has
house
to
is
make
pointed in the wrong direction.
the house is, yeah, the same direction it was pointed out when you looked at it,
Yeah.
but you can cancel it for any reason you want. So I think your additional deposit at the end of the inspection period is way more important than your initial
Mm-hmm.
deposit. Now,
Yeah.
granted, your initial deposit should be big enough to make the seller enticed to take your offer,
Mm-hmm.
but the meat happens when the inspection period's over,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So as a listing agent, I don't really give me $1,000. It's fine because you can cancel
The
for any
the
reason. But on day 11, if in 10-day inspection period, put up
yeah.
100 grand. Now I know you're serious.
Yeah. The big thing in that paragraph is, yeah, especially buyers shall not be responsible for any and all repairs and improvements required by the buyer's lender. And that hurts you when you have a VA contract. I would
Yes.
never do a VA contract on an as-is contract. I would never do a VA offer on an as-is contract.
Well, you're asking for problems because the VA
Yeah,
buyer can't pay
can't
for
close.
repairs, and the
Yeah,
seller doesn't have to pay for repairs.
right. And here's the big thing on this that you have to understand. If if you don't ask your buyer which contract they want to use, all right, and explain to them why, all right, you run the risk if you use this contract and you get under contract and you pay $500 for an inspection, and then say it's on an acre land and they got to do a well and septic, and that's another $600 or $700, and you get to repairs, and guess what? The seller won't do it. They just wasted $1,200 and don't have a house, and they're not going to be happy with you.
True.
Okay. So, yeah. And especially VA, they're very, most lenders now do require a well test and a septic test, um, for loans.
As well, they should.
Yeah. Oh, especially, yeah. I mean, why buy a house if you can't drink the water? So,
And you should know that during the inspection period, but it's going to
yeah,
cost you thousands of dollars to figure this
yeah,
stuff out.
yeah. You
And if
got
you
to get
don't
a
like it,
third party a water test. That's usually around $150.
mhm.
Yeah.
So once again, with the as is contract, when you make me the offer for $1 million for my house, I don't expect to pay anything else. And
Hmm.
I want you all to realize it's okay. Joe, you come to me with $1 million offer and you want repairs, fine. We're going to change the price to 1,005,000
Right.
because you want me to pay 5,000. I didn't bargain for repairs.
Right.
I accepted your number because it was as is. And I think that's where negotiation comes into play here. And
Yeah.
sorry, if your agent didn't explain to you the type of contract you're using,
Hmm.
you have no right to ask the seller to make repairs at the price you offered. So don't be afraid to counter at a higher price. Sure, we'll make the repairs. Price is going to 1,005,000, 1,005,000 because you're asking for 5,000 repairs because I bargained for the $1,000,000.
Right.
So this whole paragraph has so much to do with everything.
Yeah.
Buyer accepts the physical condition of the property and any violation of governmental building, environmental, and safety codes, which is why we go back to the disclosures where it says the seller has disclosed everything they know.
Yeah.
So this all kind of wraps around itself and ties together that this is a serious, serious game we're playing.
Mhm.
I'm going to take
And the
care of
other
this.
thing, I think one time you mentioned, Craig, too, if you use an as is contract and now you're sending an addendum for repairs, you're opening up negotiations again.
100%.
Right. I
You
mean,
have
that's
no
the
right.
thing. I'm sorry, go ahead.
You have no right to ask for repairs.
Hmm.
Period. It's as is.
Yep.
Your only right you have is cancel.
Yeah. And,
So if
and,
I'm the
and
buyer's agent, I'm going to say, here's my cancellation.
yeah.
Now I got your attention. Now here's a new
Mhm.
offer asking for these repairs, and that's a renegotiation.
Yeah.
But knowing that I've got to pay repairs now, I might not have accepted my $1 million price,
Hmm.
right? So I'll take $1,005,000 and I'll make your repairs for you.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'll be a a weenie on that one.
Yeah.
That's just,
Yeah.
I understand the contract. All right, paragraph B, walkthrough inspections and
Mhm.
reinspection. Critical. We talked about
Oh,
this maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, where there's a walkthrough inspection form
yes.
where the buyer walks through and says, I walked through the house. It's the condition it was supposed to be in. I'm happy.
Mhm. Yep. Yep. And then that way, it releases all the that walkthrough inspection also says it releases liabilities on the agents and the companies too. So
Yeah.
they can't come back to us. Um, yeah,
So
I told
paragraph
this
B says
paragraph. Go
walkthrough
ahead.
inspection, reinspection on the day prior to closing date. When?
On the day prior to closing date.
Or on the closing date prior to closing, as specified by buyer. Buyer or buyer's representative may perform, that's dangerous, may perform a walkthrough and follow-up walkthrough if necessary, inspection of the property solely to confirm that all items of personal property are on the property and to verify that seller has maintained the property as required by the as-is maintenance requirement and has met all other contractual obligations.
Notice it says nothing about repairs, does it?
No, it doesn't, because it's an as-is contract.
That's right.
Seller has no obligation to repair anything.
Right.
So if it was broken when you saw it and it's broken when you day before closing, it's still broken and it's yours.
Hmm.
Right? Imagine it's a foreclosure. The bank's never owned the property, never been in the property, never seen the property. They're not going to warrant anything. That's what this contract says.
So here's a little one. One of it was Lisa actually had an inspection on one of her properties, and when they did the walkthrough inspection, they came back to her and said, "Oh, one of the burners on the stove doesn't work and it needs to be fixed." And I said, "Lisa, pull the inspection report." And in the inspection report, it says one of the burners on the stove doesn't work.
Right.
And and I said, "Sorry, you knew that." And yeah, no, we're not going to do it. So by all means, keep copies of inspection reports if you get them, because when they do the walkthrough, if it was broken when they did their inspection, it's going to be noted in the inspection report.
And you can email it into .loop or you can download it and add it to your
Oh,
file.
it's always everything goes into dot loop.
Everything needs to be PDF to put into .loop.
Yeah,
Okay, so the walkthrough inspection is the right for the buyer to do what? To make sure the house is in the condition that it was when they saw it.
right.
Now, if the pool is green, you have a right to say, hey, seller, you violated the maintenance provision. You
Hmm.
need to clean the pool.
Right.
So you have that right because there is a maintenance provision. But other than that, if you find out that something is missing or stolen or well, stolen would be a different case. But if,
Hmm.
if something is not like you expected it to be or not as good as you wanted it to be, if it was the way it was, it is the way it is,
Right.
right? You're getting it.
Yep.
All right, paragraph C. This one is really, really powerful.
Seller assistance and cooperation in closing out of building permits. If buyer's inspection of the property identifies open or needed building permits, then the seller shall promptly deliver to buyer all plans, written documentation, or other information in the seller's possession, knowledge, or control relating to improvements to the property which are subject of such open or needed permits, and shall promptly cooperate in good faith with buyer's efforts to attain estimates of repairs or other work necessary to resolve such permit issues. Seller's obligation to cooperate shall include seller's execution of necessary authorizations, consents, or other documents necessary for the buyer to conduct inspections and have estimates of such repairs or work prepared. But in fulfilling such obligation, seller shall not be required to expend and become obligated to expend any money. That's pretty, that's nasty. But really, I mean, it's an as-is contract, and you're accepting, you
You're
already
buying a
agreed to.
foreclosure, basically.
Mm-hmm.
The bank's not going to do anything for you. They don't
No.
know about this house. That's the danger of this contract. But
Mm-hmm.
it's sad that it's become so commonplace.
It's really sad.
All right. So seller assistance and cooperation include. So I told you guys to do this last week, and I did it myself. I went to the property appraiser's office and I looked up my house and it showed my permit for my windows and it showed my permit for my roof. It does
Mhm.
not show my permit for my AC because I had new ACs put in.
Mhm.
So I called my AC man and said, "Why the hell didn't you file a permit?" He said, "Well, I thought I did that." Well, he did.
Yeah.
So now he's got to go and file for a permit, and they're going to have to come out and inspect the air conditioners. This was done in 2019.
Yeah.
That's 6 years ago now. But still, I want the credit because the last 20 years. So they're 6 years newer. 2019 is not that long ago, but I want the credit for having permits. But right now, I don't have permits.
And we talked about this yesterday, that the scary part about it is insurance companies are out not to pay a claim.
Uh-huh.
All right. And if you don't have a building permit on, or a permit on like a air conditioner or something, and you have a fire in your air conditioner unit, that insurance company may not pay your claim.
Yep.
So it's, I save $300 or my house burns down and I'm out of, yeah. So yeah, that's
All
a
right.
thing. Assignment of
So,
repairs and treatment of,
well, don't even finish. Let's finish this one
oh,
first. Seller
okay.
assistance and cooperation.
Mm-hmm.
Seller does not, you can't go to the seller and say, "Hey, you need to close out this permit."
Nope.
Screw you. It's an
Yeah.
as-is contract. I'll help you. I'll give you the paperwork that I have knowledge or possession of. Other
Mm-hmm.
than that, how do you solve a permit problem, Joe?
Well, you might have to open a permit and reopen it, or you call the person who installed the unit like you did. Or
Hmm.
sometimes if the permit is really old, you can call the county, and if it's a certain age, they can close the permit out.
Right. And they will do that.
Yeah.
But in the last issue I had, my pool was put in
Mm-hmm.
and the pool contractor died.
Mm.
And I didn't realize I didn't have a pool permit. So I had to go to an engineer who sent an engineer out and they inspected my pool and they wrote me a letter of good standing that I
Mm-hmm.
then took to the county permit office and opened a permit and closed the permit. It didn't cost a lot of money. It was a pain in the ass, but I
Yeah.
did it. So I've got a permit for my pool and it's
Mm-hmm.
closed, but there's no place to go. The guy died.
Yeah.
We're doing a
Yeah.
house sale right now. It's a really complicated one, and the builder died. And it's
Mm.
funny, I was laughing with the engineer and I said, "Sam, what's going to happen when you and I die?" Nobody's going to have any history of what happened to this town because I remember that house and I remember building that house and I know who built that house and all that stuff, but
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
All right. So no obligation for permits here, but the seller
Mm-hmm.
does have the duty to disclose,
Right.
right? And we need to look upon ourselves in the property appraiser's office in the county where the property is located and go
Mhm.
look and see what permits have been opened and closed.
Yes.
And if they're opened and not closed, you got to find the contractor and get them to close it.
Yeah.
But who has to do that?
The buyer.
The buyer, not the seller.
Hmm.
Now, as a good seller, you should probably check that out before you put your house on the market.
Right.
So, as a good listing agent,
IMAPS is a good source to see what
mhm,
permits are there. So
I use the Hillsborough County Property Appraiser's
you can
office.
do that too.
It's right there, easy.
Hmm.
All right, last paragraph, D.
Assignment of repair and treatment contracts and warranties. At buyer's option and cost, seller will, at closing, assign all assignable repair, treatment, and maintenance contracts and warranties to the buyer.
All right, so that being said, what should a listing agent do when they're listing a property?
You should find out if they have any warranties, like
Mhm.
for termite treatment, for a home warranty for the house. You should find that out.
Yes. So it's a question. So not knowing the internal movements of a contract
Hmm.
makes it easier to do your job right.
And,
And I will
and
tell you, Joe, I'm copied on every real satisfied survey that comes through.
hmm.
You guys do an amazing job. Your customers, it's just, I read a couple this morning. PDQ agent was amazing. I'm a first time home buyer. I could not have navigated this transaction without them. Right.
Hmm.
So really, you make a big difference. Right.
Yes.
And you want to do a good job. And understanding this contract is really, really important.
Yeah.
So, all right. So assignment repair. So just know if there's any, I was at a house the other day and they've got a mosquito treatment system
Hmm.
with these little jets around the pool area that spray up on the screen, and and that's a contract,
Yeah.
and it's assignable. So it's got to be delivered across to the new buyer saying, hey, if you want to maintain this contract, it's your cost.
And in this area, termite bonds and stuff are really important to know that they're at. I mean, there is a cost for the buyer a lot of times to convert over, to for them to for it to go into their name. It's sometimes $100 or something. They come out and reinspect and put the contract in the buyer's name. But it really is important, especially if you're got a wood frame house or have had previous termite issues in that house to keep your warranties up.
Yes, sir. All right, jumping on to page two. Oh my gosh, we're almost
We're almost out of time here. We'll do
we
it
spent a lot of
quickly.
time. We'll
Yeah.
do it quick. So the condo checklist is
Yeah.
designed to
Help
help
you.
you help the consumer know what to expect and the seller what to expect,
Yes.
right?
So the condo rider changed last June or July. I can't remember which date, but it's there's so many things, paragraph 3 didn't really change much, okay? It's still all the same documents that are required. So on this checklist, that's paragraph 3, or I'm sorry, paragraph 5 says non-developer disclosures. This is what you need to get prior to going on the contract, going a listing, all right, prior to going active.
And that sucks
Because
because if you're dealing with an agent, a listing agent who doesn't really know their job,
right,
you still have to have these things for your buyer.
right, and your buyer has 7 days to review them. And as a listing agent, that's 7 days that the buyer can cancel you. So it's really good to get these done so that when they go under contract, you can send them all these things. And now it's under their inspection period, right? So if it cancels, it falls under their inspection
Let's
period.
be clear on that. So it's delivery of the documents. You have 7 days to review.
Correct.
Now, when you understand the purchase and sale contract, it says notification to the agent is deemed as good as notification to the consumer.
Correct.
So if you put
Mhm.
them on the MLS because you are a diligent listing agent, you got all this stuff up front, you'll put them in the MLS as an attachment, you have delivered them to the agent.
Right.
So they have 7 days from day of contract. So it's going to fall within your inspection period, most likely,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Because once again, nothing happens until the inspection period passes because everything on this contract you can cancel for any reason. So
Right.
you need the
Right.
declaration of condominium, articles of
Hmm.
incorporation, bylaws of the rules of the association, the
Hmm.
most recent year-end financial statement, copy of most recent financial statement, annual budget, and the frequently asked questions and answer document.
Right.
Now, where do you get that from?
The seller can give it to you, or the condominium association can give you. Most of them know that these are the documents that you need.
Yeah. If
So,
there's ever been a sale in that condo, somebody has these documents somewhere.
right. And they got to be the
So,
most current documents. And the law passed last year says by this June, in any big condominium, they have to be online. So they're online to the resident, not necessarily public. All right. So
right.
you can't necessarily look at them, but
But the
you know,
resident can go and download them, and then you have the package and you can upload it
correct.
to the MLS, and you've covered your job.
Right.
Right. Paragraph 6, what are the changes there?
Paragraph 6 is actually added, and these are a list of things that can be requested by the buyer, and they can check them off. So they can request minutes to the association board meetings, minutes to agendas for the board meetings for the last 12 months, minutes of the condominium association members meeting, that's different than the board meeting,
Hmm.
agendas for the association members meetings, insurance declaration page, which for hazard insurance and flood and all that. And if these paragraphs are checked and the reference documents receive the seller prior to closing, and such documents, inspector prepared summary of the milestone inspection report, term report, and structural integrity and reserve study report. So, and we'll talk about those in the next paragraphs.
Okay,
So,
so yesterday I had an interesting question. I didn't know the answer, and I actually Googled it.
mm.
A condo association and the coastal construction control line.
Mm-hmm.
Is the coastal construction control line required disclosure required on a condominium?
I would imagine it is.
It is. Because if that condo gets wiped out and it can't
Mm-hmm.
be built because they moved the coastal construction control line, you're shit out of luck.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the where you'd ask those questions. Insurance declaration pages for general liability, hazard, windstorm, all that type of stuff, especially if you're buying on the Gulf of Mexico or an open body of water, the ocean, you want to have a coastal construction control line delineation.
Right.
Very interesting.
Right. So
Paragraph
in the next,
nine.
so in the next paragraph 9, this is where all the milestone and the structural integrity and the turnover inspection report are all talked about. So yeah, if the building is built before July 1st, 1992, they have to have a milestone report. Most of the condos in our area have done it. The East Coast is a little lagging, all right, but
There's
pretty
a lot
much
more
this,
condos on the East Coast.
yeah, there's a lot more. So we're pretty good on this side. Buildings, then this is 3 stories and above. All right. Now, if the first story is a garage and then the next two are built, they don't count. So it's 3 finished stories of condos. Um, Buildings 3 stories within 3 miles of the coastline and had COs before July 1st, 1997, and turnover inspection reports for buildings turned over after July 1st, 2023. That's new construction. So
Yeah,
that would
turnover is
be
when the developer turns it over to the association. Generally,
correct.
the developer controls the association while sales are still happening.
Yes.
But once they
Now
reach a certain percentage of sales, they say, okay, homeowners, you can now run the facility.
right. Now these turnover reports are almost as involved as the milestone inspection and structural integrity. They're not simple reports anymore. They have to list all the people that they use to build the materials. It's very complicated for the turn. It's not like here are the keys to the room. It's and they also have to it's a combination of the milestone and structural integrity study. That's what the turnover report is. So it will be quite lengthy if you ever see one.
Okay.
All right.
So the operative thing is this document is in dot loop.
Yes.
And what I would recommend is you take this document if you're going to list a condominium and say,
Mm-hmm.
hey, seller, here's a checklist of the things you're going to be asked for.
Mm-hmm.
Please compile them at your earliest convenience.
Yeah. So we
And I'd
went
use the
through
same
and
checklist. Hey, buyer, if you're looking at a condominium, these are the things you have the right to ask for.
right.
And the most important thing to me, and I've said this for decades,
Mm-hmm.
is agendas for all condominium board meetings in the
Yeah.
12 months preceding the effective date.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to find out who's doing who and whose dog's pooping in the yard and who got
Yep.
fined for not wearing a t-shirt in the lobby. All
Yep.
that stupid stuff's going to come out in the minutes,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're going to find out if it's a friendly association or if it's a communistic association,
The
right?
Gestapo or
And
whatever. Yeah.
then once again, all these things have to happen within 7 days.
Yes.
So if you have those documents at the time of contract, you have 7 days to review them and feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with, I'll never forget, Alex Perillo was the president of Realogy for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, the best thing an agent can ever do is go knock on the neighbor's door and say, what's it like living here?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then have that consumer tell your consumer what is the ins and the outs. He said
Mm-hmm.
that what a great service that would be. And some of you have done that. You actually go
Mm-hmm.
knock on the neighbor's door and say, hey, by the way, I got a customer who's considering running the house next door. What's it like living here?
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you come to me and did that, I would say it's fantastic, but there's a lot of bullshit that goes on. And I
Yeah.
would recommend don't get involved in the association because there are a bunch of people that want to control shit. I
Mm-hmm.
just live nicely and keep my house clean, and I have no problems.
Yeah.
But if you get involved in the politics, unless you're that type of person, and some people like that. So
Yeah. So
anyway,
I did this so it's easy enough to be able to hand to your listing, your seller, and
yeah.
say, these are the forms we need to get. And it's easy enough for you to look at it and say, okay, this is what I need to make sure I have. And the condo slot in dot loop has a spot for each one of these documents. So I worked with Sam. So there is a spot in dot loop for the declaration of associated articles. So there's slots in there for the budget, everything. It's in there. So
Yep.
if you do a condo, use the condo loop because it'll be easier for you.
Yeah. When you create your loop, choose your template, and you'll choose
Hmm.
condominium, and that's will be there for you.
Yeah, there's condo buyer and condo seller.
All
So
right, Joe. Good job. We're 6 minutes over, but I think we're making our way through the contract. So next week
yes.
we will break down paragraphs 12, 13, 14, and pretty much we're going to take every 30 minutes and just go through the contract until you just can basically paraphrase it so because the
Hmm.
consumer can feel confident.
Yes.
So other than that, it's Friday. Not that it matters
Yay.
to the rest of us. We get to work on the weekends, but hopefully you get a little bit of time off. So
Yep.
happy
Sell a house.
Friday, and we won't see you till March. We'll have a whole new month coming next week.
Yes. Yes.
All right.
Very good.
Happy
Thanks,
Friday.
Greg.
Thank you.
All right,
Okay.
bye.
Bye.